Hello everybody, this is Chris Crawley with From Fatty to Natty Bodybuilder. We really are on episode 5 this time. Enjoy!
Stage on stage, got the whole crowd bouncing. Talking about the king of kings, so move mountains, mover. I know you see him.
Woo. All right, everybody, thank you for coming on to From Fatty to Natty Bodybuilder. We have an awesome treat for you today. The first person that I competed against when I was looking like that sumo wrestler in a Speedo and never passed judgment, in fact, was a huge inspiration to me continuing this journey. Good friend of mine and founder of Become Player One Supplements, none other than Nathan Garrett. Let's give it a round of applause for Nathan. Woo! Nathan, how you doing today, brother? Thanks for coming on board. It is an honor to have you on here today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm doing pretty well today. Today's actually my rest day, so I'm able to sleep in and kind of get back into the swing of not working out every day. So,
gotcha. Before we started the show, my wife was coming down to say hi because she hadn't seen you since our first show in 2019. You said you're competing on April 2nd. Which show are you doing?
Yep, April 2nd. It's the Dave Lieberman show. It's in Cleveland, Ohio. It's the NPC Natural, Ohio.
Outstanding, man. Congratulations. Break a leg. I know you're going to do fantastic. Yep. I've seen some of your photos on NPC prior to. You look phenomenal.
Thanks, man.
Excellent physique. You are truly what I believe is the art form of this lifestyle / sport. Well, let me go ahead and start with some of the questions that I have for you. Give us a quick bio of yourself, if you wouldn't mind, and kind of what got you into doing natural bodybuilding.
Well, I'm currently 26 years old and born and raised in the small town of London, Ohio. My house is literally in the middle of a cornfield. Like, I pull up the window blinds and it's just corn. That's all I see. I have my own kind of like private gym that I put together in an old dairy barn. So again, it's kind of a whole farm aspect I got going on here. I don't know if you know much about Dorian Yates, but I take a lot of like my training ideas from him when it comes to his gym setting. He had something called the dungeon, which he just worked out in. It was kind of like the old grimy aspect, the concrete and old rusted steel. So that's what I prefer to work out in these days. As far as bodybuilding goes, I wasn't always interested in health. Actually, I was an undereater. So I was the skin and bones type. You could see my ribs, and I would spend all day, every day playing video games. So when I actually started college, I went to college for video game oriented programming and like digital art design. And my goal was I wanted to make video games because that's all I did leading up to that point. And, like I spent some time working out, running down the roads and whatnot, but my whole passion was built around making progress fun. And it took me a long time to like not only develop the concepts that go with bodybuilding, but also like the purpose as to why I wanted to do it to begin with. And, growing up around that time, you have all the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and Sylvester Stallone's, and, that kind of gets like programmed into your head that if you want to be like the manly man, you got to look a certain way. But I never really knew what like bodybuilding was. Like the sport itself was not even on my radar. It was like, okay, you have to work out to look this way. But the competition aspect, I didn't even know existed. So as I grew up, like my brothers were interested in wrestling and they did like high school wrestling. So I was always around kind of like the health aspect. Like we have to cut weight in order to get to this weight class, all the practices, all the going to random wrestling meets. And, over time that kind of like built around, for me, it was running. So I started off being a runner and like I did 5Ks and cross country and track and a half marathon, which of course didn't help out the skinniness that I had at that point.
Right.
So when I moved into college, like I was a runner and a video game person, and I ended up having, now it's not really a sob story, I know that kind of happens sometimes, but I ended up having a surgery on my kidney. And I had to like, basically I wasn't able to move for a few months, and I was kind of locked inside. The medication I was on made me like lose weight. And when I got done with the surgery, I was around 100 to 110 pounds. And at that point in time, like my scholarship and all the things like that were kind of reaching a like crossroads. So it seemed like the perfect point to make a transition. And at that point in time, I knew concepts around weightlifting. And I thought that since I'm already at the lowest baseline that I could possibly be, how could I start from here and build up into something that I have always imagined that I could be, but didn't really think was possible? So basically, I switched majors entirely. I went from computer programming into, it was athletic training, but then I switched into exercise science.
Wow.
And from there, the rest is history. I just started working out every single day, pretty much. Started off in like the college gym in my parents' basement, and then ended up kind of getting more into it. And I kind of fell into the competitive aspect by accident. I ran into a friend probably around your age. His name was also Chris. He was a master division physique pro bodybuilder. And he was like, hey, like, you look pretty good. Like, you should try doing this competition. And, you know, he kind of got me into the very first organization, the very first competition that we did. And it kind of just has built on from there.
Outstanding. Yeah, as you said earlier with the barn aspect and everything, for some reason it was bringing me back to like Rocky IV, where he's in Russia.
Yes.
I mean, look, the weather right now here in the Ohio area in February of 2022, I got about 3 feet of snow. I got to dig out of on my back patio here in a little bit, and it's not much different than Siberia. So the training's got to be somewhat the same at this point. You know what I mean? But
sometimes I put on the Rocky IV soundtrack and just go at it.
You have to.
Yeah.
And anybody who's watching this channel and doesn't know who Dorian Yates is, I highly advise hitting pause, open up another browser window, and do a little bit of Google search, and you won't be disappointed. Well, so you got into the bodybuilding quite by accident, but you stuck with it. Being that something I hope, what I really want to impart right at this next question is for people who are in your age group that might see the allure to maybe not stay natural, okay, go into the enhanced road, because obviously in the enhanced side of bodybuilding, there's bigger prize money or whatever, but sometimes the allure might make someone do some things that really aren't that good of an idea. What made you want to, by the way, you look phenomenal, natty or not, but I know you are natty, but what exactly kept you wanting to stay natural?
So really there's a few different things on this. So from one aspect, I wanted to almost do things in a more difficult way. Like, it almost seems like a little bit of a shortcut to start taking some type of PEDs and then get into it. On the other hand, like, I've seen people who take that from an early age, and either A, they don't make much progress to begin with, which means that whatever they're doing outside of PEDs wasn't working to begin with,
Right.
Or B, they have some sort of injury or health problem that comes later in life. And you look at major bodybuilders, anyone that you could probably name that has won Mr. Olympia has probably had some major health difficulty at some point. And what's interesting is when you look at their interviews and you hear them talk about them, they all recommend that you take as little as possible, as infrequently as possible, because even they understand the dangers around them.
Right.
So, like, I don't have anything bad against steroids or PD use. But from my mental aspect here, I would at least suggest that you try to maximize your potential as a natural athlete before you even consider adding in a new variable. Because if you aren't able to reach your max now, what makes you think that you're going to be able to reach your max with a steroid? It kind of doesn't really make sense if you're looking at it from amplification process here.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And you almost see now, not to take away anything from any bodybuilder, because they've achieved more in their pursuit of this career than I ever will, and that's fine. But what I kind of see in today's era is might be a reason why we're getting the classic physique into the, IFBB and NPC for that matter, because it seems like that physique, which wasn't using nearly as many PEDs as you see being used now, is the physique that most people wanted to achieve, and it's still the most desirable. I mean, I would take a Frank Zane physique over a Ronnie Coleman physique, as much as that might almost sound like I'm a heretic right now in the bodybuilding world, but I just see more beauty in a more streamlined physique, as opposed to just how much muscle can I put on and still, be at like 3% body fat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think regarding the whole kind of like concept around PEDs within like media and the public eye, I think if they were like legal and more talked about, they wouldn't be abused as much. For instance, like growing up, like I didn't know that Arnold was on steroids. Like I saw his physique as something that you could achieve naturally. And as that gets like twisted over time, you have people, of course, like Ronnie Coleman and Dorian Yates and people that you look at and you kind of already have the idea like, yeah, I can get that. And once you start working out, you realize that I actually can't get that way without using some sort of steroids. So it kind of builds up a like a false trophy that you're looking at. And people like Frank Zane and whatnot, and there definitely are some natural bodybuilders that have that physique naturally, but that involves a lot more work. And usually they get thrown in with the crowd of people who are already using PEDs. So it's kind of hard to even find them to begin with.
Another topic on that, you always hear there's always the trolls there on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube. There's just trolls everywhere, especially with social media making it a lot more safe for people to talk smack. It's like no matter how hard you work, no matter how great your physique is, there's always going to be that one knucklehead that's got to say, oh yeah, train hard, eat clean, and never give up, or whatever the hell the saying is, like all the different PEDs people can be on. You're like, you know what? Even if someone like Dorian Yates, and he even admits it, was on pretty much everything plus the kitchen sink, there's no substitute for the hard work that's going to be involved, whether you're a natty or not. Let's just be honest. You know what I mean? It's like you see people, well, maybe not in your gym right outside your backyard, but you see the folks in the gyms that are running more, like as much money as they spend on gear, they probably could have bought their own damn gym and they still look like crap because they're not, the real progress is made in the kitchen and at rest. And, they're throwing however much crap down their vein, and then they're eating a freaking pizza, and then who knows, maybe, snorting a line. So they're staying up till 3 a.m, and just not really getting where they need to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that the level at which someone is willing to call someone else like an abuser of any sense is equal to like the level that they believe that they can reach naturally. So like if you don't think that you can even get to a better version of yourself, of course, anybody that looks good, you're going to immediately just say, wow, they're cheating somehow.
Yeah. Envy is not a good color on most people. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, just chill, enjoy someone else's progress, congratulate them, and be you. You know what I'm saying? That's probably the biggest thing I've learned about this particular journey is I'm not worried about whether or not that guy next to me has got that bar bending while he's doing his bench press, and I might just be working with 185 for reps. I know I'm working Chris Crowley's muscles, and Joe Blow is working Joe Blow's muscles. Let it go.
I think another aspect as well is, of course, like kind of just from a marketing standpoint, like where does the money come from? When it comes to like Mr. Olympia and things like that, the bigger monstrous you are, the more attention you're going to get and the more money that corporation is going to make. And we've seen throughout like the history of bodybuilding, they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And especially over the past 2 years, there's like, how much bigger can we get?
Right.
And so yeah. I really think that we are going to see some sort of transformation within Mr. Olympia regarding either the legality of PEDs or the increase of popularity of natural bodybuilding.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. You're seeing that with Generation Iron throwing out that Natty for Life movie with Philip Ricardo, Brandon Lirio, Rob Terry, and some of those other guys. And now, you can scroll on gosh, I'm sorry, you get on Instagram and you're scrolling and see Generation Iron talking about the different people that were on that show, and even bringing up some other folks. Well, yeah, they're most of the people that show, but other naturals that they just look phenomenal. And I don't know if you saw the Mr. America was on CBS Sports, and you saw some of those really nice physiques and some of the hard work the men and women there put together too. Which I guess leads me to the next, my next question for you. What are some of your favorite aspects of the sport and lifestyle of bodybuilding?
So I guess from a very base key point is you're able to visualize what you want and build it out of effort and time. Like really that's what it boils down to is like, if I want to grow my bicep, I know what to do. And if I don't know what to do, I can go learn how to do it. But either way, you're able to create something entirely imaginary and make it real based off of your own hard work. And I think that can be applied to really anything, whether like it's health or business or relationships, anything that you want to create. If you put in enough time and energy into making it, eventually it's going to happen.
Amen to that. Well, I guess that's the flip side. What are some of your dislikes about bodybuilding?
Kind of the same thing is it becomes a loop of how much effort is too much effort. And, you know, I had an injury a few months ago, and it took me a while to realize like why what happened, what led to that. And just for context, I herniated my neck, and leading up to that, I had like neck pains, but you know, you have that no pain, no gain mindset, and you always have to keep grinding no matter what happens, just go to the gym and work out. And, you know, for the Joe Schmo who can't get off the couch, like they need that type of motivation. So it's understandable, like no excuses, just get up and do it. But when it comes to working out like 2 to 3 times a day, every day, 5-6 days a week, sometimes it's best to slow down, and sometimes less effort actually means more progress.
Yeah. In 2020, when I finally went from someone who really shouldn't have competed to someone who like actually could hold his own, I was upwards of doing 2 to 3 hours of cardio a day just to get that weight off of me, because it just, you know, I know that was a way extreme, but since like when I did that first show with you, I, even though I knew I wasn't ready, I was like, forget it. I'm doing it simply because I'd already put the money in. I also thought it's an amateur show. How bad could it be? Okay. So, yeah, definitely. I wouldn't advise many people to just pay an entry fee and show up anyway if you haven't put in the work. But that said, I wouldn't have met awesome people like you and a couple of others like Don Manarino, who I'll be interviewing probably next week. And even definitely William Reddick. William Reddick was a huge inspiration to keep going. And I love his organization. And but yeah, you know, you see that, you're like, man, I really just worked so darn hard. I had calluses on my feet, all that stuff. Now that I'm finally in a good place, it's so nice to know, all right, your body is telling you, chill out a little bit, put on the brakes, maybe eat some carbs that you weren't going to eat 2 weeks ago. Your body's telling you need it. I think that's one of the good things. And you're right, it comes from a dislike of something where you realize I'm just pushing myself way too hard.
Yeah, which I think that is almost the goal within itself. Like I would rather do too much and have to pull back than do too little and have to speed up.
Yeah. You're like 4 weeks away from a show. You're like, oh shit, I can't see my abs yet. You know, it's like, no. You need to see your abs about, 16 weeks out, and then, maybe scale it back a little bit.
But besides the ability to create something out of vision, one of the other best aspects that I've noted, especially with competition, not just like weightlifting, but competitive aspect, it gives a deep purpose to literally every single thing you do within your day, like the amount of sleep you get, the amount of water you drink, the timing of your food, amount of food you eat, what food you eat. Pretty much everything that you do on a daily basis revolves around one singular goal. And the downside of that is they've related it to like postpartum depression. Like once that happens, you lose that goal, and then it's like, now what? Like now what am I working towards? Yeah. So that's both the good and the bad side of having that type of purpose around one goal.
I know I get depressed a little bit during every bulking season when I start seeing like the veins are starting to disappear. Some of the lines in the shoulders are starting to smooth out and everything else. And coming from somebody who used to be an overweight person in an unhealthy way, not necessarily like I was, 800, 80 extra pounds of muscle or something like that. But you notice when you're getting heavier again, because you have to put on some fat in order to put on some muscle. It is a mind. I don't want to cuss too much on my channel, but it'll mess with your mind. Let's just put it that way. So in the background, we see Become Player One. I think it's awesome that you got that 8-bit graphics thing going on. By the way, I love the pre-workout that you have. I love the coolest thing about it. I had it in one of my other videos with, I think I even had it on Instagram. You got it in like the little individual pouches. So it's like, there's no guesswork. You're not, is that a full scoop or not? But what inspired the Become Player One supplement line that you have?
So the pre-workout is my baby. I crafted it for years. I would say at least 3 years before I even let anyone try it.
Okay.
And it started back around the same time that I switched majors from programming into exercise. And I was buying C4, like Cellucor C4, and Optimum Nutrition's Amino Energy. And I was combining them and then putting them into a shake. And like that's expensive, especially for a struggling college student, like eating ramen and doing a pizza delivery job. So not only that, but I had like millions of empty tubs filling up the kitchen. And, I would have friends come over and they would just see like stacks of tubs and they'd be like, "Are you okay? Like, do you have a problem?" I'd be like, "No, I swear it's just like pre-workout." So eventually I got tired of buying other people's stuff and I wanted to know what I was putting into my body to begin with. So I literally started just by taking what I was already consuming and I looked at like the ingredient label and I just went ingredient by ingredient and, did my research on it and figured out what each one did. Did some research on other like pre-workouts and kind of like compiled a list of the most popular, and then basically went from there. So once I found what was already in mine and what other companies were using, mine as in C4 at the time, I went through the list and basically hand-picked each ingredient that I wanted for my own sake. And over time, like I ended up just adding ingredient. I would try it out, see how I liked it. Of course, like do research on dosages to make sure that you're using like the right amount. And I think I ended up with around 18 to 20 ingredients for the first pre-workout. And the hardest part was the flavor. Like I had no idea how to get into the flavor aspect. Sure. Because I was mixing with those like those flavored straws that you would put into like bottled water.
Okay.
And yeah, so I had fake root beer flavor pre-workout that I and okay. For a while I would like every single day I would have to measure out every ingredient to the correct dosage and mix it into a little cup and then take that cup to the gym with me. And it got to the point to where I had 18 ingredients, so I'd have to do that. It would take an hour for one serving of pre-workout.
Yeah, no. I would just down a gallon of coffee before I would do all of that. I think that would be crazy. Well, I got to tell you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What was like most interesting with that too is like people would see me carry in just like a cap of random mixed powders and then like try to shove it into a bottle. Right. And like over time, people would start to question like, what is that? What are you doing? And like, that's how I got interest into people trying it to begin with. But one of the funny stories around that was I would keep it all in this box. So I would have like a cardboard box filled with like 20 different ingredients. And I would keep it in my car. That way, when I went to the gym, I could pull out the little scale in the car and start weighing powders. And until the police drive by and they see you. Yeah. And like they stopped and asked me like, what are those powders? And I was like, I swear, officer, like it's just pre-workout.
They break out the K9 and everything else. the canine starts getting the jitters. That's awesome. Well, something I want to really commend you on with Become Player One supplements, and it's something that I'm really proud of you doing something like that. Anybody that goes after their pursuit in life, okay, they try to find their what makes you kind of thing, as opposed to, I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting a 9-to-5 job or anything like that. I'm not trying to discredit anybody. I've been doing 9-to-5 work since, 1995. But when I see someone like yourself, my two boys are, they're around your age. They also have that same entrepreneurial spirit. And I just commend anybody who's out there doing their hustle to, and I know you're not doing it just for money, but of course, money, you want to earn, some money, but you're doing it because you have a passion and you're pursuing that. And my hat's off to you, man. I really am proud of what you've done. I think it's really cool. For the viewers, there is going to be a link. Nathan, a couple months ago, sent a link to me to share with people of this, we're going to view this channel, to go to his website. And there was a discount with the link that I'll provide in the description. Be sure to check that out. And then I guess,
well, actually, let me touch on that. As far as like entrepreneurship goes, it all coincides with bodybuilding as well, or vice versa. That the idea of like what you want to build, whether that's your body, your finances, your business, you can somehow mold it to what you enjoy. Like, do you like running? Do you like lifting weights, jump rope? And then once you have your own personality thrown into it, you have the choice of whether you want to actually continue with that, or if you want to continue with the cookie cutter thing. And like, I've definitely spent some time working at jobs that I disliked. I was a farmhand at one point, like literally like waxing tractors, delivering pizzas. And I would have these like moments of panic or anxiety or depression where you have an idea of something that you want to do, but then you have doubt and restrictions that pop in mind. Like, I can't do this yet, or I will be able to do this once. And there's so many different excuses that pop up. And, sometimes they're normal, like sometimes they're necessary. Like, I can't do this because I'm in school, but they're always going to be there. There's always going to be some excuse. So it's a matter of picking and choosing which excuse actually is beneficial and which ones that are true to your current time frame. Yeah. And planning ahead is a really big part. And Steve Jobs once said, like, once you know what you want, the dots don't make sense until you look backwards. So you have to like already have an idea of what you want to build and then figure out a plot. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to know the very next step. Amen. And I remember when I quit like Domino's and I worked at Anytime Fitness as a manager. Okay. And like I was on salary and had like good health care and stuff like that. And it still didn't suffice like the vision that I had already created. So eventually it comes to the point to where you're just going to have to take the leap and risk it on yourself. And you can either fail at something that you want to do or succeed at something that you don't want to do, or fail at something you don't want to do. But either way, if it's not what you want to do, who cares? That's a great point. I want to attribute this to Jim Carrey. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. A lot of times, I listen to some sort of motivational video on the way to the gym. I always looked up bodybuilding motivation, but sometimes after that one was over with, something else came on. And there was one thing about, I want to touch on two things here. Jim Carrey had said something about how his father was a really funny comedian as well, but he stayed safe, to be able to provide for the family. And I don't remember what job his father had. I think this was back when they lived in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Jim Carrey's from Canada. And so what ended up happening was his father ended up losing that job. And like you just said, you can fail at something you don't like. And now, the thing is, Henry Rollins says it best. You don't have spare time. You don't have extra time. I'm obviously paraphrasing it, but you don't have extra time. You don't have this time. All you have is lifetime. And once that's over with, it's over. So yeah, you can either enjoy, pursue something that really makes you passionate, or just
punch the clock and pretty much hate your life. I know for me, bodybuilding has really opened up just a spirit in me that I'd never even thought I had before. And a bad day at the gym is better than a fantastic day at the office. You know what I'm saying? Even if I don't hit the PRs, even if I'm just plodding through, I love going to the gym. And that's one thing that I know I'm working on, which is part of the reason for this channel, is I want to share my passion for natural bodybuilding and health improvement, especially for men my age. I am old enough to be your father, which is sad, but I mean, it happens, so it's one of those things where you're absolutely right, man. You gotta really go for it. And for those of you that are watching this, whether you're young or old, man, it's never too late to start doing something, because regret is a wasted emotion. And if you go to your grave with regret because you didn't try something, you really, especially living in the United States of America, you really kind of screwed up. Sorry.
That's really what drew my interest to like running to begin with, because I was like a hardcore runner, and I think that is almost like my favorite like mental exercise in a way, because it involves no equipment. I used to do it outside on the road. Right. And that's what I always recommend to people who are trying to start any type of like fitness transformation routine, is just to run or jog or walk, do whatever you need to do. But it's the perfect exercise because you don't have to set any sort of goals. Like you just take off, and you can set goals on the way, like whether you're outside or on a treadmill, you could do time or distance, or like I'm going to reach that stop sign. Yeah. But what's beautiful about doing it outside is there's always the run back.
Yes.
So no matter how far you go, you always have to know that you have to come back.
Yeah. In my 30s, I was really overweight, and I decided I was going to go box, and I went from like 270 something down to 179. And yeah, it was that running. It was just a beautiful thing. You just go out 3 miles out. I used to live in near Tucson, Arizona. And there was a reservation casino right down the street from me. And I would run out to the sign. That was 3 miles, turn on, run all the way back. So it was a 6 mile run. And some days where it was a quick run, I might get it done in about 45 minutes, which was quick for me. And other days I was lucky to get it in an hour and 10. But the thing about running or walking, no matter how fast or slow you're going faster than that guy sitting on the couch. So just do it, and with weight training, with any of these things, don't compare yourself to others. Just do you. And trust me, the process turns into the most beautiful thing ever. I guess this kind of leads into one of my next questions. Do you have any advice for somebody wanting to start bodybuilding? And I guess
yes. So the best way to progress with bodybuilding is the overload principle. And that applies to really running or business or anything. Basically, it's building a habit of doing something a little bit more, whether that's adding more weight, adding a longer duration, doing it at a higher intensity. Basically, you're just trying to make it slightly more difficult over time. And what's interesting with that is you don't even notice if you're doing it in small increments. You don't even notice how much progress you're making until you turn around and look at where you came from. Like when I very first started working out in my parents' basement, like I didn't know what I was doing. I just pulled stuff out of Arnold's book, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna do this for this amount of reps. And like I would keep it all on one piece of paper, and over the time I would like write down what I did for that day, and it kind of all builds upon itself. And I think one of the biggest difficulties we have is we try to make it perfect before we get into it. We need to know the perfect plan, the perfect split, the perfect amount of reps. And like, just like with running, it doesn't matter. You got to start, and you just got to do a little bit more than what you did yesterday.
Amen. Well, do you have any projects that you're working on right now outside of the bodybuilding and the supplement line?
Yes. So my whole concept is I went from a video game person, like literally I would sleep, dream about games. I would wake up and draw like them. I would submit artwork to Game Informer magazine, which was the only book that I ever read at that point in time. And like that was my passion and obsession for my entire life leading up to college. And just for some context too, like my brothers were really into wrestling, and I was dragged to like WrestleMania and things like that. And we actually had a wrestling ring in our barn, and we would film like WWF style like wrestling movies where we'd have like characters and plot lines and things like that. So there was always like this creative aspect intertwined with health, fitness, and exercise, entertainment.
Right.
And when it transferred into exercise, what I originally went to college for was I wanted to be a game designer, which is something slightly different from a programmer and an artist. A game designer is someone who creates the aspects that what make a game a game. So like the level tiers, the XP you get for killing an enemy, the idea of enemies. So but the college that I went to didn't have that major. So I kind of dabbled in other areas of that like video game aspect. And what I found was I didn't really want to do that specific job because it involved a lot of like documentation, a lot of paperwork, a lot of writing. And when I switched over to exercise, I still have that passion for like game design and video games, but I didn't know how I could apply that to the fitness industry. And I found my very first like chance with supplements. So I started making supplements, and I was like, well, I already have this. How do I like gamify that, is what the term is in pop culture these days.
Okay.
So I was like, power-ups, like that's what people use in video games, like power-ups. So
Yeah.
like what type of power-ups, how can I include that with bodybuilding? And like health you use in a video game would be like protein you use in real life. Like the little star that Mario gets is the power that you get from your pre-workout. And it was a matter of trying to intertwine two completely different elements that I both enjoy. And the more I got into it, the more I realized that they're really not that different of areas. Like video games and exercise are really just based off the principle of making progress fun. Whether you're trying to beat the boss or whether you're trying to like get all the money or whatever it may be, you're still trying to level up your character.
Sure.
And what I've noticed within my own life is the more I try to make things that I used to not enjoy enjoyable, the easier it becomes. So once I looked at it that way, it was like, how do I make exercise fun? How do I make fitness, specifically bodybuilding, because that's what I'm passionate about.
Right.
How do I make bodybuilding more like a game? So one of the things that I'm working on outside the supplement line is right now it's a gamified workout tracker. Now other companies have tried this in the past, so it's nothing like brand new. For instance, like if you ever use Trainerize gives you like achievements and kind of like new PR and give you a thumbs up. And that is a gamified element. That is like a progress point. But when it comes down to it, like no company that I know of, at least, and I try to do research in both the fitness world and the video game world, no company has ever pulled ahead. And what I think that entails is they haven't tied it to like a specific purpose. Like you have companies that kind of almost do it for a cash grab. Like we'll throw this element in here and hopefully it gets more people's attention.
Sure.
And it was never built from the ground up using both elements within the same time. So that's something that I keep at my core, is trying to make fitness fun. And with regards to that, my current workout tracker is basically built around the progression system that you would find within any like RPG, like World of Warcraft, anything that involves a lot of like personal attributes. So for instance, if you go and work out, right now I have 3 different experience points type level. You get one for your workout, one for the like metrics of the workout, so duration, RPE, and then one based off of your body. So like your body type, your body fat percentage, your BMI, and things like that. So the goal with the current workout tracker is to make the workout points able to be compared to other people. So if I went into the gym and lifted weights, and if you went into the gym and lifted weights, because it's based off of us, we would get the same amount of points if we put in the same amount of effort, regardless of the amount of weight we lifted.
Okay.
So it would make it comparable across all people and
Right.
make it fair for everyone, instead of like, well, he's already a bodybuilder, of course he's going to get more points than me, if you're a beginner.
I see.
And
right.
with that in mind, like I see it more as a growth from this point. So once you have like that kind of concept and baseline to begin with, then that's when it starts to get more fun, because then you can throw in like weekly challenges, like missions, side quests. The first person to get 10,000 points on a bench press this week can get this specific in real life reward.
Right.
And you could have like actual gym leaders like Pokemon has. You could have like gym leaders at Anytime Fitness, whoever has the most points.
Right. That's
or
really
like
cool.
boss battles. You could have like Ronnie Coleman do a workout and track his points, and like he's the boss that you have to beat.
Okay. That is awesome. I like that a lot. Outstanding. Well, hey, before we close this out, how can people get in contact with you or follow you and see what you're doing with all your bodybuilding and business endeavors?
So I'm mainly active on Instagram at Become Player One. Pretty much that's my name for everything, whether it's on Facebook, Twitch, my website, www.becomeplayer1.com. I'm slowly going to start moving into YouTube, but right now it's just mainly Instagram.
Okay. And I will put, I'll have your handle on the actual video here in a little bit. Boom, there we go. And and I'll put all the links in the descriptions in the video. Brother, thank you so much for being on here today. I know I'm not doing the show you're doing this April. I definitely got a little bit too fluffy in the off season to jump in right now. I was planning on doing Will's Reign of Fire in May, but that's when my son graduates. So I think his graduation is a little bit more important than walking around in a Speedo. Hopefully I'll see you. I'm planning on doing the Kings and Queens in June. And that's Yolanda's show with USBF. And if I don't do that, I'm going to do that unless something happens with, like, if work has me out of the state for a little bit. So good Lord willing, I'm either doing that one and or the Mr. Cleveland. And hopefully I'll get William on here to talk about that show in the near future. But I really hope our paths meet again, brother. It'd be cool to get up on stage with you this time and actually looking like a bodybuilder this go around. So I really appreciate everything you've done. And thanks so much for being an awesome guy.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
All right, brother. Take care.
Yep, you too. Thank you.
All right, folks. I first want to thank Nathan for taking his time today to do that interview with me. As I kind of said in the past, Nathan was one of the first people that I met in bodybuilding. That was just super awesome guy. I don't want to keep beating the horse about the time that I showed up not prepared for a show, but I do want to make a special shout out to Nathan, because here he was, just a younger kid. I don't want to say a kid, but he was a younger man, probably, I want to say at that point, probably 24 years old, humoring and indulging an older guy's, desire to get into bodybuilding. And he really is one of the people that inspired me to keep pushing, keep going. And I know without people like him, there's people out in the world that wouldn't keep pushing their fitness goals. So huge shout out to him. There really isn't a from fatty to natty bodybuilder without people like him. So be sure to check him out. Be sure to follow him. Really great guy. And if you're ever in the London, Ohio area, which hell, I don't even know where that's at, to be honest with you, look him up, man. Good dude. Thanks again, Nathan. And guys, thank you so much for following this channel. Be sure to hit that like. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share this channel with your friends. Keep staying in the game, guys. Keep kicking some butt. Every single day that you are above ground is a day that God has something planned for your life. So keep going, keep pushing, keep working. You got this. Love you. Bye.
Stage on the stage, got the whole crowd.